Guys, what are we looking at this morning? We are going to take a final good close look at this American Blade Works Model 1 version 6 is what Jared told me. This is a beautiful, beautiful showing from an American-made knife, and it's not a horrible price range. It really isn't. So before we go any further, though, I have to remind you guys that this is a self-sponsored channel. You'll find a bunch of affiliate links in the description down below. Anything you purchase with affiliate links down below directly supports the channel. It doesn't cost you anything at checkout, especially the Amazon ones, because anything you purchase, even if it's not the item you click on, I still get credit for it. And the other thing I want to remind everyone, coming soon, the Peanut Butter and Pickles podcast will be starting to be uploaded to wherever you hear your podcasts. So it's just me and my buddy Polly goofing around. So without any further ado, let's take a look at this from above. But first, you guys turn down the volume because here comes a little bit of music.
Guys, like I said in the intro, this is the American Blade Works Model 1, and I think this is the V6. This one is done in titanium and 20 CV. We're going to take a good close look at this. This thing is amazing, and it's another, as you guys saw, the last 5 fast that went up, all American-made knives. This is another American-made knife. Actually, the last Fast 5 was on Friday. It was on Monday. The one before that, which was the 5 most expensive knives in my collection. Another beautiful, beautiful American-made showing from American Blade Works. I've talked to the owner of American Blade Works online, and I want to get him on the channel as well. We talked about that. But this thing is a great, great knife. So this one is 20 CV, cryo-treated, titanium scales that have been milled. So let's go ahead and put up the specs. Now, I don't have an actual spec sheet, but we have the write-up from their website. So this, I'm not gonna lie to you, is a pretty affordable American-made showing. 200 and I want to say 280, 230, something like that. Not a real expensive knife. And we're gonna look at 2 quick specs. We're gonna look at the blade stock thickness. We're gonna look at the behind the edge thickness, and then we're gonna look at those blade specs, and we're gonna look at the weight. So let's go ahead and get the calipers out and take a look at that stuff first so we can start actually talking about the knife. All right, I zeroed out my calipers so we could do this. I zeroed them out and I checked them on my feeler gauges. So blade stock thickness on this, 0.126-ish. A lot of that, I don't know what blade stock thickness they had listed on a website. 1.123-ish right behind at the pivot. Behind the edge thickness, right behind the edge, if I can get right behind it, is 0.025. Still in that Goldilocks zone. I would have preferred it to be a little thinner, but I will say this thing cuts really well, even at that thickness, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's go ahead and get the calipers out of the way and take a look at the weight. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick look at this weight. So what did I do last time? Grams, let's switch it back to ounces. So in ounces, 3 7/8. Let's look at that again, make sure it's completely zeroed. 3 7/8 ounces in grams, for those of you don't use freedom units. 110 grams, so not a real heavy knife. It carries really well. So let's go ahead and get these scales out of the way and actually talk about the knife, how it cuts, how it feels, all the things that are good about it. Only one small thing, and it kind of changed in my mind as we went. So let's go ahead and get the scale out of the way. All right, so you guys know that I do a blind first impressions videos before I know anything about the knife. I didn't know price point, I didn't know materials, I did not know the blade steel, didn't know any of that stuff until I looked it up right before we did this review. So I will tell you that this 20 CV blade on this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous cutter. Jared sent it to me. I'm pretty sure he sharpened this. It's got a fairly toothy, aggressive edge, and it cut really well. I did cut with it a lot. Beautiful stone-washed finish on it. I love the fact that you can still see some of the milling lines. Not these milling lines, but you can still see where this was chamfered, and you can see the passes. It gives it some extra facets with these horizontal lines going this way, and then these I guess any way you look at it, vertical, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. At any rate, you get some nice contrast, some nice facets on that. They did it on both sides. They did a really good job with pocket clip. This thing cuts like a dream. It sits in your hand just about perfect for cutting. I will say this is another one of those knives that I push cut with it a lot more than I did draw cut. It just seems like that's the way it wants to do, the way it wants to cut. And I cut up a bunch of cardboard. I got a sound isolator and stuff for the tripod that I cut up yesterday with this. It was a big box because it had its own tripod and everything. This performs really well on cardboard. I cleaned it up right before we did the video. This thing screams through anything I've cut with it. It is really comfortable in hand, and it's really comfortable in pocket. It's got a very good pocket clip that does not have too much tension, but it's also not too light. So I carried this in several different configurations of pants. I was kind of concerned about getting it up and over on a pair of 511s with that reinforced pocket that they have for the knife. It was a little difficult to get out of those pants, but it didn't walk around. It didn't feel like it was too tight or too bent. The only problem I had, that flat spot would catch the little flap. And if you don't know what 511 pockets look like, I'll take a picture and I'll put it here so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So I carried it in jeans, perfect in jeans. In track pants or shorts, also very good carry. Didn't walk around at all. It has got a very nice finish and milling on it. The backspacer, I am a fan of a backspacer. A full backspacer I'm a fan of. I understand that it does add additional weight, but I carry enough stuff in my pockets with my knives that sometimes keys and things will get down in there. I do like backspacers, even if they're like a half or a 3/4 backspacer. The milling cutout for the... Sorry about that, guys. I still have the cough from the COVID, and I just decided to stop the video when I had my coughing fit there. So the cutout for the Lockbar is on the inside, so you don't catch any material. Really big fan of that. We'll talk about tension on Lockbar in a second when we talk about some of the things I'm not such a fan of. But the Lockbar's done really well. Action on it is pretty decent. It's not too light. It's not too, well, I say it's not too light. I wish it was a little heavier, but that's going to come back to Lockbar tension and Lockbar cutout. They did do a steel Lockbar insert, of course, with your detent ball set in it. This thing has got a very smooth action. I did not take it apart at all, so I wouldn't want to speak to the bearings, but it feels and looks as though they are ceramic bearings, so I'm not going to take a knife apart just specifically for that. Hopefully it's on the spec sheet. I haven't downloaded it yet. I know what it looks like, but I can't remember what all was on it. So there you go, guys. That's a very good all-around feel on this knife. A Lockbar access. You have really good access to the Lockbar. It's lower on this side just enough that even though this is a fairly thin access point, I don't have a problem with my big fingers getting down in there. Blade is perfectly centered, and it's an attractive knife. So there's only a couple small things about this knife, and one of them, the owner of the company and designer, already told me he had resolved. So there's a couple small things I don't like about it. I don't like the Lockbar tension. I wish there was a little bit more Lockbar tension, because if you just kind of gently approach it, it doesn't let you load up, and it just kind of feels soft. Now, if you really hammer it, you get a very good snappy action. The other thing that I really don't like is this is kind of squared off. There's two more things, actually. This is pretty squared off and sharp, and especially when you look, that milling line comes right up against, and so I would have done this as a chamfered area, softened that a little bit. Now, if this was my knife, I could easily take this and just take the scale off, allow this Lockbar to fall all the way over, and just kiss this whole Lockbar area on a Scotch-Brite just to soften that up, maybe fillet that out just a little bit, because that's a little sharp. Now, I will say, the way you're holding this knife, you don't really feel it as much as some others. Every once in a while, you'll catch that little point right there, and it does feel a little sharp. And then the only other real thing that I noticed is that that Lockbar insert is not cut and clipped down and married into that. And so it does give you a little hot spot right there. Like if you've got soft thumbs, you can feel that. It's not necessarily a hot spot, but you can definitely feel it. But other than that, this knife is great, great, great in hand. The comfort level you have when cutting is great because it's got this nice palm swell and you get in on it. And you've got a really good grip, but you don't feel like you're forced. A lot of these knives that have this large area here, this belly here, and then it comes down in, it just kind of feels like you're forced in up onto something that's uncomfortable, which is the other thing. There's not a lot of hot jimping on this. There's just about the right amount of jimping for getting a little bit of access to it, but it's not at all sharp. Now, this, I wish this was, that's the one I missed. I'm sorry, I forgot. I wish this jimping was a little bit more aggressive, but it's not horrible. So as far as comfort in cutting, this thing is beautiful in hand. Pocket clip is kind of tall and proud. It's not hot spotty, but you know it's there. Like you know that the pocket clip is there, but it's also not a hot spot. I think that this pocket clip could have gotten rounded down a little bit further, maybe shorten one of these screws and kind of taper it down like you see on some other knives. But all in all, it's not uncomfortable and it is solid. I have to tighten this up because I had the pocket clip off because I did do the reversible pocket clip thing, which is the next point I wanted to mention. You do have a reversible pocket clip. I wanted to see how it felt left-hand carry. It feels fine. I actually did feel that the pocket clip was better feeling on that side because it was in your fingers as opposed to into your hand. But like I said, still not a hot spot. It does have a reversible pocket clip and they provided the screws for that, so you're not going to have to clean those holes out. One of the big things that really irritates me when they do a reversible pocket clip is when the holes are just open. And I don't know if you've ever been out in the woods and crawled around and been hunting or things like that, and stuff gets down in there. And if you decide later that you want to carry this as a left-hand carry, or you sell it to someone, or you give it to someone as a gift, and you've already used it, or you give it to somebody because they like it, and you've got those full of dirt, they're gonna have fits trying to get those screws down in on these titanium scales if they're filled with gunk and debris. So having the screws in place just as placeholders is a really, really cool idea. And I think, I haven't completely taken it apart, but I believe that this screw winds up being part of the construction that holds the back spacer in. I'm 100% sure of it when you look at it because there's only one there. That one is one of the ones that's holding. So that's actually a construction screw as well as a pocket clip screw. So that, I mean, that's probably why it's there, but it's always a good idea to fill those screw holes with something, a plate or a screw or something like that. Just gives you a little bit better, a better time if you're gonna flip this. So yeah, I wish that there was a little bit more lock bar tension. That would be my biggest gripe on this. Everything else is a little ancillary. It's not such a big deal, but I do wish that there was a little bit more lock bar tension on this. Now, I had thought about asking Jared if he would let me adjust the lock bar tension on this, but I looked at how thin that is milled and I really don't want to run the risk because what you're doing is you're bending that, and there's only so many bends that a piece of titanium has in it. It's a lot like a paper clip. You bend it too much, it's going to break. And I didn't want to risk it because this is a very, very nice knife. That would be my big suggestion, would be lock bar tension. Maybe not mill this out as thin and give it a little bit more strength. And that would make that action on just like the light switch a little bit better because it does feel a little soft. Like if you load up on it, it's great because it is really, really smooth. So great, great knife. I like this knife. You can tell because I'm kind of gushing about it. I'm really happy I got to see it. Another really good American made showing, USA made knife, which we don't get to see as often. And it's at a really good price. So I'll make sure that I go back because I can't remember the actual price. I'll pop it up when I talk about specs and price and stuff like that. But yeah, great, great knife, guys. Let's turn this around, do some final thoughts, and send you out about your day.
So there you go, guys. This is a great, great, comfortable knife at an affordable price point, which has escaped me again. Wait 1 second. $289. $289 for a 100% American-made knife. I think that's awesome. I will support that all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. So, guys, go check it out. I know they're sold out right now. I know they're hard to get, but they will be more coming, I promise you, because it's a good knife. Guys, that's it on this one. If you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. If you don't like them, give them a thumbs down, but tell me why. I can't change the content if you don't tell me what you don't like. If you want to support the channel, it's as simple as like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, hit the bell icon. But if you do hit that bell icon, make sure that you have notifications turned on your device or you will not get notified of the multiple things that go up a day. And I am going to apologize. I have a fan on. I know that you're going to hear some background noise. I can't do anything about it. It's hot. If you want to support the channel financially, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of affiliate links down below. Pick an affiliate link, find something you like, tools, knives, recommended gear, Blade HQ, Coffee Brand Coffee, and I believe I still have a VPN down there. Other ways you can do it, I have a membership down below. It's tier-based. Pick the tier that suits you best, gets you what you're looking for out of the membership, but everyone saves $5 off my sharpening service, and everyone gets access to my gilded server. And the final way is I have a merchandise store on Ember Shirt Co. Anything you purchase on Ember Shirt Co., I can save you 10% at checkout with the coupon code CrazySharp. Capital C, capital S, CrazySharp saves you 10% at checkout. And that's all one word. Capital C, capital S, all one word. CrazySharp saves 10%. If you take pictures of you wearing my merchandise and send them to me, I will put them in a video. Guys, I love y'all. Keep it clean in the comment section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. And I will see you in the next video.